President Trump's approval ratings jump, migrants approach the southern border, and the left goes ballistic over the Department of Education's approach to sex and gender. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Well, I hope that you had an uneventful weekend. We here at the Daily Wire had an eventful weekend, which means we had to go to Politicon and ruin our Sunday that way. But if you missed Politicon this weekend, we've got you covered because subscribers get to watch all Daily Wire events for free on the website. Head on over to dailywire.com/subscribe to enjoy all the leftist tiers produced over the weekend and enjoy our weekend much more than I did. Go check that out right now. Also, before we jump into today's news, I would recommend to you that if you are not getting the sleep to which you feel entitled, perhaps you should get a better mattress. Well, the mattress that you need is available over at Helix Sleep. They've built a sleep quiz that takes 2 minutes to complete. They use the answers to match your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress. Whether you're a side sleeper, a hot sleeper, whether you like a plush or a firm bed, with Helix, there's no more guessing and no more confusion. Just go to helixsleep.com/Ben, take their 2-minute sleep quiz. They will match you to a mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. For couples, Helix can even split that mattress down the middle, providing individual support needs and feel preferences for each side. The mattress is really great. My wife and I took the 2-minute sleep quiz. We ordered the mattress. It came in the mail. We opened the box. It inflated right in front of us, popped it on the bed frame. We were good to go. It's so good that we actually got one for my sister for her wedding. They have a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. Right now, Helix is offering up to $125 off all mattress orders. Again, up to $125 off at helixsleep.com/Ben. That's helixsleep.com/Ben. Again, $125 off your mattress order. Go check it out right now, helixsleep.com/Ben. Use that /Ben so they know that we sent you. All right, so the polls in the lead up to the midterm elections are starting to look a lot better for the Republicans. The reason for this is because Democrats suck at everything. So there's a lot of attempt on the right to claim that this is all Republican know-how and suddenly Republicans are good at things. No. What's really happening here is that the Democratic mask is off and Democrats are garbage at everything. Basically, when President Trump is the second thing in the news, that is a very good thing for Republicans. When he is the first thing in the news, it's a problem. So when Democrats spend weeks demonstrating they don't care about due process and that they will railroad a guy simply for political reasons, very good for Republicans. When the lead headline is the leading 2020 contender for the Democrats setting herself on fire over a DNA sample, that's really good for Republicans. When the lead headline is Democrats approaching Ted Cruz in a restaurant and screaming at him and his wife, very good for Republicans. The best friend of Republicans right now is the insanity of the Democrats. And you are seeing that full scale in the polls. Also, obviously, you're seeing the effect of a very good economy on the Republicans. The margin by which voters trust Republicans over Democrats on the economy has never been larger in the history of the polling. Really, it's like R+17 in this poll, which is amazing. Also, I don't want to give no credit to President Trump. President Trump has done a couple of very good things. Number one, he has taken proper economic measures that have really benefited the average American. And number two, the President of the United States does make it feel like he is a change actor. And usually in midterm elections, there's an attempt to vote for change. Right now, what the polls show is that Republicans are actually seen as the party of change while being the party in power. That's really unusual. Usually the party out of power is seen as the party of change, but because Trump is so out of left field and so outrageous and so chaotic, the benefit of that is that he feels like a change agent even though he is the guy who's sitting in the seat. That is very good for Republicans. So here is what the latest polls show. According to the Wall Street Journal, voter interest in the midterm elections has surged to records within both parties, helping to drive up President Trump's approval rating while maintaining the Democrats' lead as the party most preferred to lead Congress, according to a new Wall Street Journal NBC News poll. The findings point to an energized electorate buffeted by dynamics that bring great uncertainty to the outcome of an election just 2 weeks away. And what the polls kind of show is that everything is narrowing. Nearly 2/3 of registered voters show a high level of interest in the election. That is the highest ever recorded in a midterm election since the Journal NBC poll began asking the question in 2006. Now, the reason for that is because largely of the Democrats. The Democrats were always going to be energized to vote against President Trump. But now Republicans are really mobilized to vote against the Democrats. I know that my interest in voting peaked significantly thanks to the Democrats' behavior during the Brett Kavanaugh saga, and I know that most other Republicans feel the same. The once large gap between Republican voters and Democrats voters' interest in the election has now been closed. 68% of Republican voters and 72% of Democrats say they are very interested in the election. That is the highest recorded for either party by the survey in a midterm election. Also, President Trump's job approval rating has jumped to 47%, according to the Wall Street Journal and NBC News poll. That is the highest mark he has ever had in office. In that poll, he is now higher than President Obama's average poll approval rating before the 2010 elections. Now, it is worth noting that President Obama got skunked in the 2010 elections. But with that said, President Trump has gained significant approval, only 49% disapproving. So that's about as close to parity as Trump is ever going to get. He's never going to be a 55% president. He's just too polarizing a figure. 47% for President Trump is a very good number, and that is a re-election number. If he gets up to 47% in the public approval ratings, he wins re-election in 2020. That's an improvement from September. That's when 44% approved and 52% disapproved of his performance. And then Democrats decided it would be a great idea to shoot themselves in the foot repeatedly with an AR-15. And now President Trump has soared in the approval ratings. Democrats still do lead on the question of which party should control Congress. Among poll respondents identified as likely voters, 50% prefer Democrats, 41% prefer Republicans, which is about the same as it was in last month's poll. But the blue wave is now running into a riptide of uncertainty, according to certain pollsters. Although Democrats are preferred in the national poll overall, here's the key. Their advantage has vanished in the House districts that matter most. In districts rated as the most competitive by the nonpartisan Cook Political Report, the parties are dead even on the question of which one should control Congress. So that means that in California, Democrats are really fired up. In New York, Democrats are really fired up. In Ohio, not quite as much, or at least Republicans are just as fired up as Democrats are in Ohio. In last month's poll, this is an amazing thing. In last month's poll, Democrats led by 13 percentage points among registered voters and 6 points among likely voters. Interest in the election has jumped among many groups that tend to favor Democrats, Latinos, African Americans, young people. More than 2/3 of black voters showed high interest in the election. That's up from 57% in the average of polls taken from January through September. But you're also seeing a massive increase among white voters, among Republican voters, among older voters. It's consistent. So we do not know what the case is here, but there is a massive gender gap. And this massive gender gap is, again, the result of two things. President Trump is toxic to women and Democrats are toxic to men. The gender gap is not one factor. It's not that men love Republicans and love President Trump because they hate women or anything like that. It's that President Trump is uniquely off-putting to many women, particularly suburban moms, and the Democrats are supremely off-putting to men. And this is why you're seeing the polls close. The gender gap that has actually opened up wide in the last month is not between women and kind of the normal electorate. It's between men and the normal electorate. Men are now favoring Republicans in heavy numbers. This poll found Democrats with a lopsided advantage among female voters. For the second month in a row, women in the survey say they prefer a Democrat-controlled Congress by 25 percentage points, 57 to 32, which is a massive gap. Male voters, however, want Republicans to lead Congress by a 14-point margin, 52% Republican, 38% Democrats. And competitive swing districts are mostly in suburban areas. Urban voters favor a Democratic-controlled Congress by a 36% margin. Rural voters favor the GOP by 31 points. Among suburban residents, the parties are virtually tied. 44% favor GOP control, 45% favor a Democratic Congress. Now, why? Because voters continue to trust the Republicans on the economy. On trade issues, Republicans are preferred by a 17-point margin. That's up from 8% in August. The issue has been in the spotlight because President Trump was actually able to close a NAFTA deal. So all of the talk about tariffs and trade wars, that has basically receded into the background. So all of this is good news for Republicans. Does that mean Republicans hold the House? Is still more unlikely than not, but this upsurge is pretty amazing stuff for Republicans in the lead up to a midterm election. And again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Democrats are just terrible at everything. When I say they're terrible at everything, I mean they are completely off-putting on the most basic issues. And that's what we are seeing. That is the story of today's politics, is how off-putting the Democrats are. Mitch McConnell, for example, like Cocaine Mitch, as we are fond of calling him. Cocaine Mitch was eating at a restaurant. He was confronted by protesters. If this thing becomes consistent, it is not good for the country, and it is certainly not good for the Democratic Party, which seems to be embracing it in a way the Republican Party is not. Now, Nancy Pelosi was also confronted over the weekend, and protesters shouted at her. The difference is high-level Republicans condemned that. High-level Democrats are not doing a great job of condemning what's going on here. Look at these protesters confront Cocaine Mitch and Elaine Chao. They're eating at a restaurant, and, I mean, frankly, they're just lucky that Cocaine Mitch didn't go ballistic on them and tell them to say hello to his little friend. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to go up against Cocaine Mitch and Elaine Chao. They will claw out your eyes and feed you to the ravens. But this is what these protesters decided to do.
Oh, yeah? Why don't you get out of here? Why don't you leave the entire country?
Ditch Mitch!
They're going to fight for social security.
Kentucky. The protesters. And all the patrons are like, get the hell out of here. Nobody likes you. Leave. And this is why it's so funny. I've been asked before if anybody has ever confronted me at a restaurant or tried to make trouble at a restaurant. And I'm like, no, I eat kosher. Those are all my friends. Right? You come into a kosher restaurant and you try to confront me. These are all my buddies. This is my security. Right? The Jew crew. Okay, so we will fight you off. But Cocaine Mitch basically has that in Kentucky as well. So he just activated his goons to basically fight back against these guys just by sitting there. The cool, collected turtle. Gotta love it. Okay, meanwhile, Democrats determined to show that they are just as nutty as you think they are in other ways as well. They've decided that Beto O'Rourke is the most important person on planet Earth. He is deeply important. Why have they decided Beto O'Rourke is important? I have no idea. They're trying to say that he's sort of like Barack Obama, except without half the charm or the racial appeal. But they're still trying to manufacture this kind of quasi-enthusiasm for Beto O'Rourke. There was a report from ABC News that really fawned over him last night. But the best stuff from these campaigns, and it was true for President Trump, and it's the thing I despise most about politics generally, it's true for Obama and Trump. Anybody who has any level of political notoriety has a certain number of fans who are completely crazy. And those fans do completely crazy things in public. I don't mean wearing T-shirts or lining up for book signing. I mean what I'm going to show you in just a second, because it's astonishingly bad and really embarrassing. And you got to imagine that these folks, the day after the election, they wake up and they go, what was I thinking? What really, was this what I wanted to do with my life? When I was 12, was this the image that I wanted to project to the world? We'll get to all that in just a second. First, let's talk about Blue Apron. Okay, you need food delivered to your house in prepackaged ingredients, the freshest, best ingredients, gourmet recipes. It'll come directly to you, and then you can cook with your family. I love cooking with my kids. Folks around the office are using Blue Apron on a routine basis because the food is great, and also, it's just a great idea. Every time you go to the grocery store and you go with a shopping list, first of all, nothing more annoying than that. My wife and I have a rule. I ask her before I go to the grocery store which ingredient she wants me to forget, because I will forget one. So she may as well pre-name the ingredients I'm going to forget. With Blue Apron, you don't have to worry about that. Everything is coming to your door in the prepackaged portions, so you're never getting too much. You're not going to Costco and buying like 83 pounds of turmeric. Instead, you're getting exactly what you need. It's coming to your door. You're cooking these gourmet meals. It's dinner in as little as 20 minutes. Every week, at least 3 recipes are built in for your busy schedule in mind. Blue Apron has done the meal prep for you. They've prepared sauces and spices and ingredients, and they offer a range of recipes bursting with flavors. Whether you're looking for a quick and easy meal or a full culinary cooking experience, Blue Apron lets you choose from the range of recipe options. So check out this week's menu. Get your first 3 meals for free at blueapron.com/Shapiro. That's blueapron.com/Shapiro to get your first 3 meals for free. Blue Apron is indeed a better way to cook. And man, I'm looking at some of these recipes. It's stuff like tomato and basil pesto pizza that you're cooking, seared steaks and homemade steak sauce with mashed potatoes. I mean, this is gourmet stuff. You make it in your own home. You don't have to go to a restaurant, be harassed by folks who are going to yell at you. Go instead to blueapron.com/Shapiro to get your first 3 meals for free. And when I say folks have made fools of themselves for Beto O'Rourke, I remember back in 2008 when the Democrats actually had small children sing hymns to President Obama, then candidate Obama. Now Democrats have gone even beyond that. Here is a bunch of Beto O'Rourke supporters, I don't know why, doing YMCA, but BETO in unison. It's not good. Now, what I love about this most is the move that was made by Democrats, that Beto O'Rourke draws an incredibly diverse crowd. If you can't see this, this is all old white people and a small girl. That's really what it is. It's like all a bunch of old white people who can barely move. It looks like workout night at the local old age home. I mean, it looks like it does when you actually go down to the YMCA and you see the people who are 60 in the water doing physical therapy, except they're doing BETO for Senate. So that was strong, but that was not the strongest entry in the Beto worship hymnal. Okay, the strongest entry comes courtesy of some crazy ladies who decided to cut the weirdest video I've seen in this election cycle. Well, I can't say that. I mean, I've seen so many weird videos in this election cycle. I can't, but this one is pretty astonishing. Here we go. I don't even know what this is, but listen, if you can bear to.
Ahead of Ted Cruz yet? By the way, where'd you meet him?
I first saw him on Ellen DeGeneres. He's taking on the GOP. You get the picture?
Yes, we see.
And Beto does it
Without a super PAC.
Here he comes now. He's married with kids, but he's still my man.
Man.
He played guitar in a rock and roll band.
Like Bernie Sanders, but he's got a tan.
There's nobody my Beto compares to, like JFK with a $10 hairdo. Hey, Ted Cruz,
You better watch your back.
he drives up.
Believe it or not, this is not a parody of Beto supporters. These are actual Beto supporters.
Rolls.
My temperature's rising, and so are his polls.
Don't listen to the internet trolls.
My heart was stolen, and he's the burglar. My triple meat
I know people are telling me to cut this, but I can't. It's mesmerizing. It's mesmerizingly bad.
I feel so much better now.
Okay, well, this is not actually a parody of Beto supporters from what I understand. So good stuff there from the Beto supporters, really demonstrating that they don't care too much about a guy driving over a median line, being super drunk and crashing into a truck and then fleeing. And also, I mean, I can see why they don't care that much about drunkenness, considering you would have to be drunk to think that was a good idea. But there you are. So I can't imagine why Republicans are responding the way that they are, except for Democrats. Again, the theme of today's show, Democrats, terrible at everything. Continuing with that theme, the woman who I've chosen to catcall on a routine basis, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the future congresswoman from Brooklyn, over the weekend, you wonder why folks in the United States are not taking Democrats maybe as seriously as they should, because they don't deserve to be taken seriously. Here is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez over the weekend saying that we should fight global warming the same way we fought the Nazis. Well, I don't see really how bombing the Germans is going to help, but I mean, I'm willing to try if she is, I guess. Here is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez suggesting that I guess we're supposed to, I don't know, invade Normandy to stop global warming or something. Here she is, the most intelligent advocate for her position the left can present these days, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
We had a direct existential threat with another nation, at this time it was Nazi Germany and the Axis, who explicitly named the United States as an enemy. And what we did was that we chose to mobilize our entire economy and industrialize our entire economy.
Stop her. It's very difficult to hear. Because when we talk about existential threats, the last time we had a really major existential threat to the country was around World War II. So she knows nothing about history. There was an entire Cold War that existed for several decades after World War II, as it turns out. She said, so we've been here before and we have a blueprint of doing this before. Right, when we bombed the Germans. I mean, don't stop her, she's rolling. She says, none of these things are new ideas. What we had was an existential threat in the context of a war. We had a direct existential threat with another nation. This time it was Nazi Germany and Axis, who explicitly made the United States as an enemy. History lessons with Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez are some of my favorite history lessons. We had a direct existential threat with another nation. This time it was Nazi Germany and Axis, not Axe body spray. Okay, you mean the Axis powers? Oh, that's what you mean. She said, and what we did was we chose to mobilize our entire economy and industrialized our entire economy, and we put hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to work in defending our shores and defending this country. We have to do the same thing in order to get us to 100% renewable energy, and that's just the truth of it. So we need to draft every male of military age, have them live in barracks for 4 years, ship them overseas, put women in the factories, and ration the butter. Good idea. Good, yeah. Don't see how that's going to go wrong. Why don't we take them seriously? I just don't understand. Speaking of not taking them seriously, a very serious issue right now is cropping up on America's southern border. So, as folks know, I'm pretty libertarian when it comes to immigration. I'm somebody who believes that there should be free movement of labor, not citizenship. You shouldn't be able to come in the United States and become a citizen and vote. You shouldn't be able to get taxpayer dollars. But if you want to come here and work, I really don't have a huge problem with it. But even I, a libertarian on immigration, believe that we ought to have actual borders in the United States, meaning defensible borders. You don't just get to cross our borders because you want to cross our borders. A country without borders is not actually a country. This caravan issue is a serious issue. This is according to the Associated Press this morning. A growing caravan of Honduran migrants streamed through southern Mexico on Sunday, heading toward the United States after making an end run around Mexican agents who briefly blocked them at the Guatemalan border. They received help at every turn from sympathetic Mexicans who offered food, water, and clothing. Hundreds of locals driving pickups, vans, and cargo trucks stopped them to let them clamber aboard. Bessie Jacqueline Lopez of the Honduran city of San Pedro Sula carried a stuffed polar bear in a winter cap that seemed out of place in the tropical heat. It's the favorite and only toy of her two daughters, 4-year-old Victoria and 3-year-old Elizabeth, who trudged beside her, gleaming with sweat. Listen, I have sympathy for folks who want to escape crappy places to come for a better life. That doesn't mean the United States has an obligation to take in anyone who wants to get in without any sort of vetting procedures or determination as to whether this person is going to help the country or not. That's not the way this works. We live in a different time than we did in 1907 when there was no vast welfare state for people to take advantage of, when the structure of the economy was substantially different. Again, I'm for free movement of labor, but you have to control your borders. She says, my goal is to find work for a better future for my daughters. I have sympathy for that. Go claim asylum or try to apply through legal immigration means. You don't just get to march across the United States' southern border. And yet the left has claimed that's exactly what should happen. President Trump has taken to Twitter to respond to all of this. We will get to that. And here's what he said. He says, we'll get to that in just 1 second. President Trump's response to the migrant crisis and the Democratic response to the migrant crisis. But first, let's talk about your personal security. So our sponsor, Ring, the video doorbell company that allows you to see and speak to anyone when they come to your door, they have sent us actual footage of Ring busting crooks in the act. Do we actually have the footage today of the crooks busting, of us busting crooks in the act today? We don't? Okay, in any case, you don't actually need to see the footage. Just take my word for it. Okay, the fact is Ring does a great job of keeping your property secure. I know because I have a Ring video doorbell. Not only that, you can now get Ring's floodlight cam and spotlight cam. They let you build a ring of security around your entire property. Because when you are away, you want to make sure that you can keep track of what's happening at your house. The Ring video doorbell allows you to actually answer the doorbell even if you're 3,000 miles away. The Ring floodlight cam, spotlight cam, they activate as soon as somebody steps on your property, so you can see what's going on your property. You can let the police know if somebody is trying to get into your property. You can stop crime before it happens, help make your neighborhood safer with Ring right now. Save up to $150 on a Ring of Security kit at ring.com/Ben. That's ring.com/Ben. Again, $150 off when you go to ring.com/Ben. As I say, we have Ring products at our house. They're really spectacular. You should have Ring too. It will keep your house safer. $150 off when you go to ring.com/Ben. So President Trump has responded to this growing caravan of migrants that have left Latin America and are moving up through Mexico, Latin and Central America, and moving up through Mexico and toward the United States border. He has responded, I think, properly by pointing out a couple of things. One, we need border security. Two, the countries that are allowing them to do this are doing so with the intent of creating a pressure situation on our southern border. Why should we continue funding governments that are going to continue creating those situations? If the Honduran government is going to allow folks to simply walk over the border to Mexico with the intent of going to the United States, why exactly would we be funding that government? Same thing is true of the Mexican government. Same thing is true of the Salvadorian government. There is no reason for us to back governments that are going to create pressures on our southern border without actively working with us on the immigration issue. President Trump says full efforts are being made to stop the onslaught of illegal aliens from crossing our southern border. People have to apply for asylum in Mexico first, and if they fail to do that, the U.S. will turn them away. The courts are asking the U.S. to do things that are not doable. That's correct. That's correct. We do have procedures. One of the problems here is that you can actually show up at a point of entry and you can apply for asylum. That's the legal way to do this. That's not what these caravans are doing. Some of these caravans are simply finding places that are open in the United States border and crossing there. Trump says the caravans are a disgrace to the Democrat Party. Change the immigration laws now. Now, I'm not sure what immigration laws he wants changed specifically. We actually just have to enforce the laws that are already on the books. You're not allowed to illegally enter the country. We are allowed to deport people. We can streamline that process. Maybe those are the laws he wants changed. But it is true that the Democratic Party has been using the immigration issue as a club against Republicans, suggesting that Republicans don't care about Latino folks because they want to defend America's borders. That argument isn't working very well, specifically because a lot of Latinos in the United States are also interested in living in a country with borders. They're not interested in living in a country where anyone can go and come as they see fit. One of the great lies of the media is that everyone agrees with an open borders agenda. Virtually no one in the United States actually agrees with an open borders agenda. And it's pretty obvious that there's an actual agenda to this caravan. It's organized. Not only is it organized, it's organized for the cameras. The AP reports hundreds of migrants applied for refugee status in Mexico in the southern city of Ciudad Hidalgo. By Sunday evening, the Interior Department reported it had received more than 1,000 requests. But Most of them were not doing this. A far bigger group forded the Suchiat River from Guatemala to the Mexican side individually and dozens at a time and resumed the trek at first light, marching 10 abreast on the highway. Si se pudo, they chanted in Spanish. Yes, we did. Well, we don't have to let those people cross the border. The throng grew even larger when the migrants arrived at the border bridge, swelling overnight to 5,000. It was not immediately clear where the additional travelers came from, since about 2,000 had been gathered on the Mexican side Saturday night. Presumably, some of those folks are from Mexico. They're not necessarily from countries to the south of Mexico. Their destination on Sunday was the city of Tapachula in the Chiapas state. Under a blazing sun, small groups of 20 to 30 paused to rest in the shade of trees on the side of the road. By afternoon, the caravan had evolved into long lines of walkers straggling for miles. Basically, what this looks very much like is the Middle Eastern migration that has swamped a lot of Europe. That's what this looks like, just visually. Now, the numbers are not the same, obviously, as you're seeing from immigration from North Africa and the Middle East into islands off the coast of Italy, but the imagery is the same. It's a group of folks who are trying to escape a worse life and simply cross the border illegally into the United States. Again, the United States is a sovereign nation. We can't afford to simply take in everybody that we would want to take in out of economic necessity or out of some sort of sympathy for the folks crossing the border. You cannot have a country that is the strongest economy on planet Earth taking in thousands and thousands of people illegally without vetting them and without any sort of skill set. That does not make for a good economy. This is one of the reasons why it's so funny. Folks on the left, they love Norway, they love Denmark, they love Sweden. The immigration restrictionists have been winning in Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. You cannot actually have a full-on socialist state in terms of redistribution of wealth when you have an underclass that is coming that does not have a skill set. One of the things about those the Nordic countries, the Scandinavian countries, is that they've basically banned immigration. Well, the United States, the left in the United States wants it both ways. They want full-on open immigration at the same time that they want to raise social spending to heights never before seen in human history. That is not a recipe for victory. And that's why President Trump, the Republicans are going to win on this issue. Even Lindsey Graham, who's a real dove on immigration, right? Lindsey Graham, famously one of the Gang of Eight, along with John McCain, a big fan of immigration reform. Even he said, listen, this is not something we can do. Nancy Pelosi would welcome these caravans. I don't know what happened to Lindsey Graham, whether he bumped his head or something, but Lindsey Graham 2.0, the reset, is really good. And here's Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, saying Nancy Pelosi will welcome these caravans.
Do you want to be the country of people that run you up and down the hall and spit on you? Or do you want to be a country of Republicans who can actually deliver for working families out there, that will put good judges on the court, that will stand up to the enemies of this country? Nancy Pelosi will welcome the caravans here. Donald Trump and the rest of us will stop them.
Okay, well, that is exactly right. And that's not out of lack of sympathy. That's because a country that has a rule of law must abide by that rule of law. Democrats who continue to push this issue are going to lose. It's funny, because Democrats are so ensconced in their own bubbles. I mean, what polls show is that Democrats have far fewer Republican friends than Republicans have Democrat friends, because Democrats who live in blue areas actually see Republicans as nasty, evil human beings, and so they won't even talk to them. They actually believe that it's a mainstream view that people should be able to flood into the country. They actually believe that it's a mainstream view that gender and sex are completely separate. And not only that, that if a man calls himself a woman, that man is then a woman. The latest evidence of this, this is an amazing story, is the way the media are covering an attempt by the Department of Education to define what Title IX actually says. So here's the headline from the New York Times today. It says, transgender could be defined out of existence under Trump administration. Now, when you read that headline, what does that sound like to you? It sounds like the Trump administration is saying there are no such thing as transgender people or people who suffer from gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. That's what it would sound like from that headline. Is that what's actually happening? No, that's not what's actually happening, because that's idiotic. Okay, nobody is saying there aren't people who are transgender. What the Trump administration is saying is that under the law, laws that have to do with sex discrimination are specifically focused on biological sex. They're not focused on you thinking you are a member of a different sex. So when the Civil Rights Act was written, and it included language about men and women and sex discrimination, it did not mean that it is sex discrimination for you to say that a man who shows up in a classroom, a fifth grade classroom, dressed as a woman, and you say, that's not cool, we're not going to do that. That's not the same thing as saying a woman can't work in the classroom. That's not sex discrimination. Right? That's what the Trump administration is saying. They're saying that behavior by men is not the same as being female. That's the actual, I'll read you the actual article. It doesn't ban transgender people. That's not what they are doing. The media is so dishonest with regard to how they cover transgender issues because they refuse to even acknowledge the fact that there is such a thing as biological sex. It's utterly self-defeating. What the left suggests is that gender and sex are exactly separate, but gender is sex. Right? So gender and sex are completely separate. You can be a man, but your gender is female, and that makes you a biological female. That makes you an actual woman. This is how they want to read the law. That makes no sense under any circumstances. I will explain in just 1 second. They think this is a winning issue. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. First, let's talk about that thing, that clunky, awful thing you're wearing around your wrist. You want something nice? You want something that looks like this? I mean, let's be real. Check out that watch. That's a nice watch, right? I mean, it's a nice, clean-looking watch. It's classy, well-designed. Well, what you need is a Movement watch. Movement has come pretty far from being crowd-funded kids working out of a living room. In the past year, they've not only introduced a ton of new watch collections for both men and women, they've also expanded to sunglasses and fashion-forward bracelets. I have 2 Movement watches. My wife has a Movement watch. My mom has a Movement watch. So does my father. What's great about them is that they're really kind of minimalist and classy looking, and they are not expensive. Okay, they are luxury-looking watches at non-luxury prices. Movement watches are not going to tell you how many steps you've taken, how many calories you've saved. They're just going to tell you the time. That's it. That's what they do. And they are very good at that. Movement watches start at just $95 at a department store. These would cost you $300, $400, $500. Movement figured out by selling online, they could cut out the middleman and retail markup, providing the best possible price. They have classic design, quality construction, styled minimalism, and you get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to mvmt.com/Shapiro. See why the movement keeps growing? mvmt.com/Shapiro for that discount, 15% off. mvmt.com/Shapiro. Go join the movement. Okay, so we are going to get to more of the left's bizarre take on science in 1 second. But first, you're going to have to go and subscribe. For dailywire.com, get $9.99 a month is the subscription. That's it. You get the rest of my show live. You get the rest of Andrew Klavan's show live, the rest of Michael Knowles' show live. You get access to things like our performance at Politicon yesterday, which ruined my weekend, but may make your week. I don't know. Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I enjoyed being there. I'm fibbing. I enjoyed being there with all the folks who were in the book line. But it was a Sunday, guys. It was a Sunday. In any case, go check it out right now at dailywire.com. $9.99 a month or $99 a year. Get the annual subscription. It comes along with this. The Leftist Tears Hot or Cold Tumbler. You will enjoy it. You will live it. You will love it. You will feel the power emanate into your very being. Your soul may nearly leave your body when you feel the joy that you will experience upon grasping the Leftist Tears Hot or Cold Tumbler. But don't worry, you won't die. You'll just be lifted up a level in terms of your spirituality. You can do all that for just $99 a year. So what are you waiting for? Go check it out. Also, subscribe to our feed over at YouTube or iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. We only accept 5-star reviews. If you try to do anything else, we'll just reject it. So don't even bother. 5-star reviews over at iTunes. It helps us with the rankings over there. Plus, that means that you get our Sunday special. This week's Sunday special was Andrew Klavan. Next week's Sunday special is pretty awesome. I can fairly state it will be great. So I can't reveal who the guest is. Suffice it to say, spectacular. Go check it out right now. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast in the nation.